average, 22 veterans take their lives every day because they're left with the trauma of war, turning their lives into a nightmare that they are told is severe PTSD and depression. Often left to their own devices and their own coping mechanisms, some turn to a bottle, some turn to a gun, and others turn to fun. Chai. Psilocybin-containing mushrooms are healing severe PTSD and depression at such a widespread rate that cities across the country are pushing for decriminalization. The United States Federal Drug Administration has fast-tracked 2 breakthrough therapy designations, gearing for legalization at the federal level. For so long, the truth of the healing powers of fungi and plant medicine have been suppressed. Many of our loved ones have died young, and these medicines could have helped them. This episode is dedicated to all of our armed service members who have taken their lives in a VA hospital parking lot. And to those of you that are considering that route, I just want you to know that I love you. You're an amazing human being, regardless of your past. And there is hope. Mycoverse The Mushroom Podcast. Mycoverse The Mushroom Podcast. Mycoverse The Mushroom Podcast. Mycoverse The Mushroom Podcast. Mycoverse The This is Mycoverse, the Mushroom Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan. I have a very, 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 very special episode for you. It's the first in the series of this podcast that I am calling Veterans for Psychedelics. I'm reaching out to any and all veterans who have healed themselves from the dreadful depths of PTSD and severe depression from going to war and coming back home and being left to their own devices to cope and do whatever the fuck they gotta do. And a lot of them take their lives, and I'm sure you've all heard of 22 veterans taking their lives every day. That's a tragedy, and our system isn't quite there yet. We're on the way. But yeah, this is a tribute to all armed service veterans who've taken their lives and haven't found the light and the hope. Our first guest on the show is going to tell you his story. He's going to tell you his story of how he healed his PTSD and depression with psilocybin mushrooms. For those who have never experienced them, if this is a new topic to you, if you're still on the fence about it, keep an open mind. Listen. And understand that there's a huge tidal shift in the paradigm of how we are going to be looking at mental illness and the natural world around us, and that we've been neglecting it for such a long time. But the time is here and now. That is where you exist. Forever and always. Here and now. You will be. And so will I. And so will our guest, mycology hobbyist.
3, 2, 1. Mycology hobbyist. You're going to tell us a story today, right?
Yes, sir. It's a big one, a good one, hopefully, that it can inspire other people to change and better their lives and potentially affect change on a global scale.
That's where it's at. So I've kind of already done a pre-recording telling everyone what they're going to hear, but I want you to do it in your words. What are you about to tell us right now?
Okay. Well, I guess the best way I can do it is by summing up my story of my life so far, from joining the military to now. Back in 2008, straight out of high school, I joined the Army and went into basic training in August of that year. Got out of basic and AIT around the 1st of December. And shortly after, in 2009, I deployed to Iraq in February. During that time period, it was a rough patch for the year. Let's just say that. Encountered a lot of messed up scenes and encounters with my friends that left some of them hurt. Seen other people hurt in such a way that left us with PTSD, as well as I got hurt in August of that year when I was hit by 3 mortar rounds and a rocket-propelled grenade. I ended up with a severe and traumatic brain injury. I had hearing loss, some vision loss, and I also have scoliosis, which is a curvature of the back and a back injury now from those events. I was supposed to be recovering where I was stationed at Fort Hood after I got hurt in order to continue my military career. Unfortunately, on November 5th of 2009, Major Hassan came into where our medical facility was for sending people to overseas and coming back from overseas, and shot 26 of my comrades. I had seen some of what had happened and was left with severe PTSD from it. I was supposed to be recovering already from events I had encountered in the war. So being at home and having one of your superiors try and kill you as well as your comrades leaves you scarred. Let's just say that. The Army saw it that way as well and discharged me a month later from the military, honorably. Ended up taking a year just to get into the VA, which was actually an act of the president. I'm sorry, what was that?
I was going to ask, it took you a year to get in. And so in that time, how the Army discharged you, right? And then it took you a year from that point to get in with the VA system. Like, yes, what were you doing in the meantime for that whole year?
In that whole year, I was scraping by on unemployment. I was with my fiance at the time and her 2 children, as well as she was pregnant with my son.
Yeah.
And couldn't get any help from the VA. They didn't want to respond to me, didn't want to give me appointments to even go get my rating for my disabilities, even though they had their paperwork in hand stating that.
That's so crazy. Like, so you had all that shit happen overseas, and then you were literally in a shooting on a campus where they're trying to treat you, and they took that long to even get to you. That's fucking crazy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It took an act of the president after having written him every day for at least 11 months.
Yeah.
On my behalf, my fiance did this.
Yeah.
to get into the VA system. All right. So finally, that took a year just to do that. Spent years on being on VA, being prescribed different medications, never did anything to help me.
Which type of medications?
Let's see. There was Seroquel for depression and mood disorder from being hurt and having post-traumatic stress disorder. I was on, I can't even remember the name of it right now. It's for seizures and another mood disorder. I can't remember the name. Long story short, they were giving me cocktail medications. Never did anything to help me. I ended up moving out to California, getting hired by a cannabis company.
Okay.
There's where I discovered magic mushrooms. My buddy of mine who goes by Myco Valley on Instagram and one other person there at the company introduced me to them. I ended up being given an ounce of mushrooms and was told only eat a couple of them, but didn't really listen to the instructions. I ate the whole thing. It was around New Year's Eve. Had this mind-opening fractal energy experience and connection to the universe that I felt like I had lacked ever since I got hurt and went through the traumas that I did. In such a way that opened my eyes, made me realize I was one with the universe. Yes, mistakes had happened in my life, but that's all they were, mistakes. It didn't make me condemned or like gonna go to hell or that I couldn't fix my life. And that's another thing on top of it is that having taken that dose from that point on, even in sobriety afterward, after the trip was long over, I finally began to get some of my brain cognitivity back, where I could see correctly. Finally, I could speak more appropriately without stuttering and having issues being able to speak to people in general just because of fear and trauma.
So I was going to say, from your, we're just going to call it injury because this all happened starting in war and then everything you went through since that point, before you went, could you talk? Could you function? Were you totally fine?
I was totally fine.
And then everything since that point,
cream of the crop.
What exact injuries are we talking? So you like your vision, hearing, and all of that went out?
I had where instead of being able to see crisp, clear 20/20 vision out of both eyes, where one eye I could see somewhat blurry things that were close to me. I could see better further out, whereas the other eye would be the complete opposite. And it would cause me to have where anytime I would try to use both eyes, it was just this blurry mess of not being able to really move my eyes and focus them together in order to be able to properly see. It would cause more migraines, which being traumatic brain injury already was this loop of just pain causing more pain. And I had to wear these glasses anytime I went outside. That would prevent me from having bright light hit my retina and cause more pain. Since I've taken the mushrooms and been microdosing occasionally, I take a microdose once a week. I'll do an actual trip twice a year. That's gone away. I don't need to use the glasses. I've actually gained some of my physical mobility back, where I used to have to use a walker. Now I can walk around without using the walker. My diet, man, before I didn't want to eat food, didn't have the energy to, it made me feel sick even just to eat. Now I have where I can eat and eat and eat, feel great. And it's not just eating either. I have the desire to eat healthy foods. I don't want to eat junk food and drink soda and coffee or drink alcohol or do these other things that I used to do that were bad habits that were bad for myself anymore.
That's awesome.
Another thing I would say is I am more spiritually aware of my soul and what I take in, not just as food, but in the metaphorical sense, what I watch, what I listen to, what I read, even the pictures I'll look at. They all affect me, and I've realized that now since taking that and have been able to work through all these negative aspects of my life that were preventing me from being who I wanted to be and ultimately who I needed to be, not just for myself, but for other people. Prior to all of this taking mushrooms, I was getting to the point in my life where I really just wanted to commit suicide. In fact, I was probably going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
All the trauma just felt like baggage in such a way that I couldn't live, I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. And I didn't want to go through it anymore.
Right.
Having taken the mushrooms since then was like a miracle, man. It's completely altered all of that and has not just changed my reality, but has helped me be such a better person that I was able to do more for my kids, more for my family, be responsible and helpful in ways that if I wasn't there able to do that, bad things would have happened in all of our lives. Where now, because of this, I can prevent it.
There you go. Yeah, I was gonna say it. The motivation just kind of naturally flows in when you microdose from everything we've experienced and everything everyone else is reporting on. It's just, I don't know. It's, yeah, you should keep talking.
Without saying that it's God, from, I guess you could say, an agnostic point of view, which is you don't necessarily believe in a theological religion's power of God in that way, but you do believe in a higher power than yourself.
Yeah.
For people that are looking to talk to God and pray, man, this is why our ancient elders used these. It was to talk to God. It was to get that infinite knowledge from the universe and to be able to alter change in their lives and survive. They didn't have machines and medical technology and antibiotics and cars and microwaves and phones and Skype and podcasts to speak to each other on. This was their ultimate form of communication. I think we're just now beginning to reawaken into that aspect, and we're in the midst of a psychedelic revolution, or a renaissance, a reawakening.
That's awesome. I
mean,
what?
The beautiful part about this, man, is it's the best part. How many medications are out there already being peddled by pharmaceutical companies that not only can people not afford, but
don't work?
They don't
fucking work. I'm depressed. Give me a pill. Okay, we'll give you a pill to numb it, but it's not actually going to get down to the root cause and help you get through it all. As opposed to, here, eat this. It's fungus, so it's literally you are of fungus because you evolved from it, and it's just got these magical properties that, like, if you don't want to get into all the science of it, it's at the end of the day, it can help you get through your traumas, get through whatever it is that's causing your anxiety. That's the biggest difference. Like, pharmaceutical pills mask the symptoms. Like, if you get sick and you go drink NyQuil, that's not curing your cough and your fucking nose and all of that. It's only masking those symptoms. Like, antidepressants and anti-anxiety pills do the exact same thing. It's just a mask.
Not only is it a mask, more often than not, people who take it often report feeling like they're trapped in someone else. They're a backseat driver to a car that they're just strapped into, can't do anything about, where psilocybin gives you control of the will. And the best part, like I was going to get into, is that you can do it yourself at home for under $100. Yeah. What prescription costs you under $100 that you can keep indefinitely going with the right set of knowledge? That's available. It's free. You can look it up on Google.
You can.
It's easier than growing cannabis. I've done that as well. Cannabis takes so much effort and time, whereas fungi, that's easy. They like it. In fact, I feel when I am growing, that in itself is therapeutic. I don't even have to be tripping or taking mushrooms. Just growing them, watching them live, watching how they produce. You feel connected and see what you came from, and it gives you a greater understanding of what you need to do with your life and the time that you have here, as well as understanding that life will go on after you and you will be recycled. You will be again.
That's something that I've myself and from a lot of other people, that interconnectivity that, I mean, even from the study at UCLA for life after death, it totally just, there's something interesting when you feel connected to everything and you realize like the plants, the animals, the sky, the ground, everything around me, like we're all one, we're all made of the same water, the same carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, all of it. I don't know. And in my life specifically, there's a lot of friends. I don't know how many people die around other people. And like, obviously your situation is completely different than mine, but like since high school, which has been about 10 years now, there's countless, like 20 plus friends of mine that have died from like opiates specifically. And then like some are in car crashes or whatever, but like, I'm just like numb to it now. And people keep dying. Like it seems like at least a couple a year that are like close. Like, and it's, especially after going through all these psychedelic experiences, it's like, it's okay. It's really just the cycle of life. And while we're here, because life definitely is going to end, like that's not a big mystery. Like no one's going to live forever in this body that you're in today. Fucking just that's what it's, you got to make sure you're working towards something that's going to make you happy, but also you're a part of a community. You can't just be selfish and like, I'm going to get a job so that I can work, so that I can make money, so I can take care of my family. And that's all I want to do. Like, that's cool. But then you can end up with a job where you're fucking hating it while you're doing that work just to make the money. So it's like, I don't know. It's good stuff. And I'm really happy that
It's insanity.
Yeah, it's insanity. And I keep learning more and more every year. And every year I just get happier and happier because I'm working towards goals that are both for me and because I just genuinely at heart care about my community and everyone, you, me, my friends, family, all of that. And so like my line of work that I'm in, during the day it's amazing. Like I help prevent fires in communities and then after work, I come home, I take care of my daughter, I help my wife out. And then now I have this, I get to talk to people like you sharing their stories and other people who are the world of mycology. It's like, once you start learning about it, it seems like it's just so intense and so like, oh my God, why does nobody talk about this? Like, this is amazing. And it's unbelievable that just the vast amount of wisdom, right? Like fungi grow across thousands of acres of forest, and they've been doing this since the beginning of time on this planet, it seems like, and they've survived every mass extinction, and there's just a wealth of knowledge. Like fuck, dude. It's really cool. It's really cool that we have this opportunity to talk and spread that message because there's
Akashic Record, man.
Do what?
It's the Akashic Record.
What's the Akashic Record? What is that?
The ancient Vedics, as well as others, talked about what was known as the Akashic Record. It is basically a program in the great reality that we live in, a sub-program that is capable of containing all knowledge that ever was, is, or will be. And they believe that if you could tap into the Akashic Record through the use of medicines such as magic mushrooms, marijuana, others, that you could get what you needed out of the Akashic Record, that ultimate infinite knowledge, that if you wanted to know how to build this water canal system, that you really needed it in order to grow crops in an area that was not necessarily really suited for doing so, you could take this and you could get that ultimate knowledge from it.
Right, because it's going to allow you to think outside of the box of your normal day thinking when it's, especially for projects like that. And on this subject, it's looking at like, okay, people coding in Silicon Valley, like they're literally creating freaking software out of nothing. And they're having to come up with these like crazy formulas and everything. So the way it's interesting, I listened to someone talk about that and they said it literally like when they're microdosing, I think this person was microdosing LSD, but it seemed like the code when they would close their eyes and just sit back in their chair. Sorry, I just sat back from the microphone. They could see it like in 3D, and it was like not only could they see it in 3D and figure out how to move it around in their mind, like that
They
cosmic.
can look into it.
Exactly.
They could see the inner workings. They could see how everything comprised it.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that that is what I've been able to do since I started microdosing and taking a full dose twice a year. Is I can look further into what I need to build what I need to for, say, my mycology or outdoor farm for vegetables. I can take the dose, sit back in a nice peaceful setting, close my eyes, listen to something that relaxes me, and see it in my mind's eye, my third eye, and move it around, work on it. Even get suggestions from that higher power we're talking about. But, hey, have you thought about that? You know, maybe you're looking at it the wrong way. It'll give me another aspect to be able to see it.
Something interesting I just heard.
If you ever
Go ahead.
No, you got it. Go. What were you gonna go for?
I was gonna say, if you ever look at these pictures of nebulae and the cosmic dust that floats around and comprises stars, and
Just type in incredible galaxy photos and see what comes up.
Right.
well, if you've ever made a liquid culture with fungi in a liquid culture jar,
Okay.
you'll start to see that the fungi form this pattern that looks like, if you were to zoom out from our galactic cluster even further past to where it looks like all our galaxies are together, we resemble a fungi. So I think on a grand scale, ultimately, we are Whovillians, if you will, or we're people that live on a speck, living on an ultimate greater organism that is fungi.
So
It's the Fibonacci sequence as well, man, where you see as above, so below. Same repeating patterns, man, from the micro level to the macro level. I believe we are someone else's micro and that they are macro, larger than us. And it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. I think there's some truth in what you're saying right there. I had a really interesting idea. I was talking with some family members at Thanksgiving yesterday, and we were talking about how the old man, he was like 80 something years old. He's like, they used to teach us in school that there's a definite, like, eventually the universe is going to implode on itself. And now they're saying like, oh, it's exponentially growing, right? You just don't know everything.
It's expanding.
So what I was thinking between now and then is like, we're living in a mycelial universe. Like, and because I was listening to Paul Stamets talk about how mushrooms like grow like across vast distances of forests, and they just like, they're so far outreaching,
but
They're the largest organism on Earth.
oh dude, listen. So they're one cell wall thick, right? And we're like a bunch, and just we've all heard, if you've ever listened to Paul Stamets talk about it, it's like they're
The honey mushroom.
yeah. Well, okay. So we're talking about the largest one, but like on a bigger level. So if this universe is constantly expanding and reaching out, like say this is like super theoretical talk, right? If it was mycelium and this was all a fungal universe, then that's like the mycelium reaching out and finding more food and constantly growing and expanding it, because that's just what they do. Like literally, if the universe is growing the same way that mycelium does, that's really interesting for one. And for two, I'm losing my train of thought. Fuck. It's so fun to think about.
That's what I'm saying. It's the Fibonacci sequence. It's the repeating patterns.
what's
Where
is that? Go ahead.
Okay, the Fibonacci sequence, man. I can't give you the exact numbers right now because it comes with a mathematical formula. But essentially, it is that you see how spirals are repeated in nature, right?
Yes.
Even mycelium will do that, where they repeat the spiral in the circular formation. It's in everything, man. It makes up literally how atoms are, form to create molecules. Spooky action at a distance goes with this. If you ever heard of that?
Go for it.
Okay. Einstein spoke about spooky action at a distance. It's where an atom has protons that make up the atom, as well as electrons. Those protons can be anywhere at one time and have a duplicate of it at the same time. Along with the Fibonacci sequence with the repeating patterns, and what Paul Stamets has talked about in being in a mycelial universe, what you have here is our Big Bang was from what I believe to be a spore. It sporulated, it exploded as the spore germinated, and everything that now we are and everything that will be, that's this expanding universe coming out, is a repeat of a repeat of a repeat. Because in nature, if we are a program that's designed to survive, we're going to pick the easiest, best route possible. And fungi seem to be that best, easiest route possible. They can live on anything. They can survive the harshest temperatures. They can change their way that they're even formed and structured to survive on a new thing. They evolved us. They evolved plants. They are the ultimate intelligence, and I believe that because of that repeating pattern of the Fibonacci sequence, where everything is just a smaller version of the same thing built up larger and larger and larger. You'll see this in fractals if you trip really hard, where you'll see like the tunnel-like effect that leads into another tunnel that leads into another tunnel. It's the same concept, man, where we are just a small piece of a larger piece. It's comprised of the same numbers stacking on themselves because it's the easiest, best route to survive.
That's golden knowledge, man.
I mean, they say in geometry, what's the shortest distance between 2 points? It's a straight line, right?
Yeah.
Same thing goes with life. It's going to pick the easiest, best method to do so, and it's going to go with it.
Yep. That's so wild. So how does, if you think about like string theory and how the next parallel universe could be like millimeters away from us, if we're...
Have you ever taken DMT?
I have. I tried it a couple of times, but I don't think I blasted off like everyone talks about. I've definitely, I've never broken through like that with DMT.
Okay. On a breakthrough with DMT, not only will you see the universes that are around you, these other dimensions, you'll notice things that are around you, everyday objects that you didn't notice certain details or aspects of them before, that after the trip's even over, you'll still be able to see. Yeah. It's that added extra dimension that I think as children, as a matter of fact, actually we have. I think it's through growing up and trauma and just the things of life that go through our minds and being taught and trained to be a certain way, we lost that magic of childhood. I remember seeing things through a whole different set of eyes as a kid and noticing things that other adults never noticed. Whereas now I kind of feel like that faded away. I mean, even a good example for that is out of a book, The Polar Express, where the kid ends up being taken in the Polar Express to see Santa Claus and is told towards the end of the book that when he grows up, he won't remember it. So he asks Santa to keep a bell so that he can remember this event. Because the magic of childhood was lost. I believe that magic mushrooms, Amanita muscaria, ayahuasca, other psychoactive drugs realign whatever neurons in our brain that we need to have realigned to be able to see these extra sets of dimensions that our ancestors knew were there full well.
Yeah. Because I feel like we're conditioned just in the society we live in, honestly, we become very compartmentalized, right? Like you go through school for the 12 years that you do as a kid, and then you're either off to work, off to college, off to whatever. And if you think about the difference between someone who like works every week, goes home on the weekend, goes back to work, does that for years and years and years and years.
It's a box.
But then you have people who are like traveling the world, and you always like look at them and you go and talk to them, and they're like, they're just on another level of consciousness without taking anything. And it's like, I think we're very much so conditioned into losing that awokenness, and there's like a sheet put over our eyes, is how people have said it before. Darkness. And, you know, it's the way I've always loved to think about it was how I was taught before in like my AP Psych class was sensation and perception, right? There's just tons of stimuli everywhere around us, and your brain perceives that stimuli through your senses that your body picks up, and it goes in and computes it and says, okay, this is what it is, right? And but you don't need to know everything going on around you to survive, and your brain isn't like
tuning stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but when you take these psychedelic substances, the plants, the whatever, it opens that up. And so something that I noticed through all of my experimentation through the years with it is like, you hold on to a lot of that as you like, if you're like, you know, it just kind of stays with you and it keeps building and you keep realizing and learning. And I think just like learning alone, you know, like, once I was done with college, my wife was still in college, and I'm like, man, I want to go back to learn about this. And she's like, fuck that, dude, just educate yourself. And it's like, ever since then, that's when I started jumping into mycology and learning about it. And it's like, if you keep
ever expanding knowledge, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's because of having these resources and like, so medicine, plant medicines and fungi, and just being around people who understand that as well it helps me have more motivation and just energy, period. Cause like when you're, depression is such a tricky bitch and especially anxiety too. And anxiety will bring it on because it's just like a back and forward roller coaster that I think everybody has it, obviously. And it's in varying degrees. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. And what a lot of all of us have been taught by Western medicine is like, oh, you have depression, you're probably going to be taking this pill for a really long time. And because, you know, everybody else does. And what happens is like, they don't do the work. It's like, they think the pill is going to do it. And that's the biggest scam, is that like the pill doesn't do it. Even like taking the mushroom itself, like you have to have the will to get through it. And if you don't, it's going to be either one hell of a fucking trip that might end up good, or like, you know, it could just have been fun. And then at that point it's recreational if you're not going to do any therapy with it. And like recreational is good because it can help you like, it's like creative therapy, you know, like let's just do it and not have any expectations and see what happens. And, you know, like that's great. But if you're trying to like specifically target, like, I want to quit smoking, I want to stop being angry when I come home because like there's so much stress around me with money and this and that, like I really want to work on that patience. Like you have to talk about it. And that's what everyone doing the Go ahead.
It's like a muscle, man.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like a muscle. You have to work out your muscles. You can't just expect them to go and, you know, power lift 300 pounds. You had to work towards it.
Yeah.
You had to feed yourself. You had to diet right. You had to do all the things necessary in steps to get to that point. You couldn't just skip ahead and do that.
This body is a machine. You are not the body. Like it's like you are your consciousness and your soul is in this body for this time. And
right.
What's going to happen after? Fuck if I know. But some people try to tell you they know, but really you just have a feeling. That's the only thing I can say is like, I think it'll be fine. Whatever happens. You know, I don't think there's nothing. I don't think it's just like lights out, done. I don't know if I'll like remember. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I've had a lot of experience with mediums and people who can like speak with spirits. So like, I think that in the afterlife, some souls remember what happened, but I don't know if like it's like you're definitely gonna like know your past life. Who knows?
I think.
What do you think?
There is an infinite set of mysteries and paradoxes that form our reality, sir. Yeah. I think that we live in an enigma packaged in a riddle box.
An enigma.
I mean, there is no yes or no answer. I think a lot of what our reality is too is possibly a collective hallucination. Yes. Where we are something greater than this anyway, but we had to do something, so this is what we collectively decided to imagine.
How do you know?
Go ahead.
It sounds crazy, but I mean, if you think about it in the context, if we really were an infinite powerful being, and we were just the only infinite powerful being by ourselves, chilling, cruising through the universe, you'd get kind of lonely after a while, you know? Eventually, if you had the power, being an infinite powerful being, you'd split yourself up into not only different personalities, but alternate variations of those different personalities to get the most use out of it. So in that regard, I would say that would be what parallel dimensions of the universes we collectively are all imagining.
Yeah.
Energy.
Definitely. No, I'm sucking it in because this is like everything that I feel, honestly. It's I've always focused out. Go ahead.
I once heard someone say, man, we're all instances of the same life. Basically, we're all the same thing. We're just different appendages that look funny and have different colors and do different things. But we're all the same.
It's a very interesting world out there. Yeah. It's the thing that's always gotten me too is, I mean, there's so much we could dive into right now. What I wanted to say earlier though, talking on that idea of like the mycelial universe and like, if this universe is like made of mycelium and it's stretched out finger-like, and that's why we're ever expanding exponentially. So sorry, I'm losing it here. The mycelium is super thin, right? It's one cell wall. And so then when you look at like string theory and Einstein, and we're talking about dimensions being millimeters apart, well, it's so fun. Like, I don't know. This is like a new thought I'm formulating, and that's why I'm like not spitting it out properly. But
well, I mean, it's all supported, man, and there is evidence to back it all up. I mean, we're not even really solid objects. Like I said, we're made out of atoms that, you know, comprise molecules, but they're not actually stuck together. They're
bonded together.
Mysterious energy field that allows for them to appear as being a physical, solid object. You know, that way you're not just falling apart like goo everywhere.
Right, exactly.
But essentially, you aren't just one big thing. You're thousands of little building blocks that aren't actually touching each other. They're magnetically stuck together, or however it's formed. I would think of it maybe as the force, like George Lucas talks about.
There's a lot of truth right there too. It's interesting after going through and learning and experiencing everything that comes in the world of like, once you start expanding your consciousness and you're truthfully, genuinely like, okay, I just want to understand what the hell consciousness is, right? Like, I'm not gonna go and take mushrooms and just like I'm dead serious. I'm trying to figure this out as a scientist, right? Like, there's no harm, no foul on that. Like, literally, mushrooms do nothing but positive. They're doing all the science for it right now. We've already known it. Like, you could, after you take them, you know. But for somebody who's never taken them, it's like, we're coming out of an era where our parents were taught that marijuana is the most evil plant medicine in the world. Like, it's gonna make you fry your eyes out. You're not gonna be able to pee standing up for the rest of your life. Like, so much bullshit that was shoved down.
For madness.
Yeah, exactly. And it literally caused madness and shied everybody away from the truth that there's medicines come from plants. Like, you need to understand that. And if you don't, and you're still thinking that, no, fuck you, I need to go to the doctors and that's it. Like, that's integrative medicine is really the path forward, because, and
that's where we encounter a great evil at hand in our society, man.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people making money off of...
Make money off of people being sick, make money off of people wanting to commit suicide, make money off of the shit of society that should be fixed, but these people are keeping it that way because that's how they survive. That's how they not only survive, but keep themselves on top. Whereas if everybody were to just help each other, do things like psilocybin, smoke a joint here and there, chill out, reflect, the world would be a lot different.
Just slow down.
That's where we encounter our greater evil, even within all of us, man. There's a potential for that. It's greed, it's attention. Everybody has their own different reasons for the same things. And I believe that it's more along the lines of what ancient philosophers would talk about with yin and yang. We have a good side and a bad side to ourselves, and how we balance those out is the most important part of our lives.
So swinging it back around, as a veteran, no, it's cool. As a veteran who has dissolved PTSD and depression with psilocybin mushrooms, psilocybin-containing mushrooms, what do you have to say to the leaders of our country, to the lawmakers, and veterans themselves who maybe never have heard this story and are on the fence about it? Like,
that you spent millions of dollars, billions actually, on training the best fighting men and women on earth to do what they needed to do for you, and you're wasting money by not giving them the best proper care that you can available. That is what it would cost the government pennies on the dollar to grow mushrooms and supply a microdose to countless veterans and other people that could benefit from it, to not only keep veterans from committing suicide, but actually lengthen the time that they're able to serve in the military. That would be more beneficial to the government and to society as a whole, because then you're not constantly recruiting young kids off the street who are 18 years old, fresh out of high school, who haven't learned anything. You're going to have seasoned thinking adults who are able to function and think outside the box and provide for you the best defense money can buy at a cheaper level than what you're paying by constantly recycling people out and treating them like they're expendable. It's the best way, and honestly the only way. Drugs weren't the answer from pharmaceutical companies and chemists. This is from nature. Nature, historically, throughout time, always made everything we needed to survive, and this is one of those things. So give it a chance, please.
There you go. Thank you, man.